Okay, so welcome back. So we continue our discussion on the plastic resource recovery in this particular video as well, and then we'll kind of get into, we'll try to introduce to you the concept of circular economy. That's the goal for this next 30 minutes. So let's get started. Where we left in the previous video, we were looking at different aspects related to the plastic resource recovery. So when we go for resource recovery of plastic, or for that matter any particular material, there are certain technical matrices we looked at. Those technical metrics we will try to look at them and try to explain each one of them. So one of the important aspects that we always look for is what is known as reusability. So we try to look at reusability. So what is the reusability? It's the amount of material that retain its functionality and physical attributes after the end of the primary life on a weight or item basis. So when you are looking at any particular material, how much of it's really available functionally, and it still has its physical attributes at the end of life. So that's how much of it is reusable. So that's your reusability. Then remanufacturability, which is what is the potential of trying to restore a component and product to like new conditions. So in terms of refurbishment, many times you see when you go for buying something online on not that like Amazon or Flipkart, or there are other websites which Snapdeal and all that, they say that it's a refurbished product. So refurbished product means it has been remanufactured. So it had certain defects which has been fixed. So it's a potential to restore a component or a product to like new condition through measuring, disassembling, cleaning, inspection and sorting, part repair, refurbishment, replacement, reassembly and final testing on a weight or item basis. So again, remanufacturing refurbishment it's a very common thing, it happens. So there is an old laptop or old computer which has a part or two which is bad, rest of it is perfect. So you put a newer part, or you can get it from some other used computers which has these two particular parts is still in workable condition. So you bring them in. So from those two computers you actually producing refurbishing one computer. So one computer becomes useful and other is will be a piece of junk, but part of it can be recovered as well, but then this computer can be used for quite some time. So that's in terms of remanufacturing, where we do the remanufacturing. Mass recyclability, which the amounts of material collected and are sorted for recycling on a weight basis. So how much material is there. Technical recyclability is the portion of the material. So we just covered about mass. In terms of technical recyclability is the proportion of the material or component made of only one material collected for recycling, that would be recycled for producing high quality recycled material. So it's a proportion of material or component made of only one material. So it's which is collected for recycling, that will be recycled for producing high quality recycled material. So that's it's your technical recyclability of that particular for that particular stream. So that's your technical matrix used for that. Now there is also mass recoverability, which is what is the amount of mass you can recover from that when you try to go for recycling or resource recovery, amount of material or proportion of the material that will be captured after the end of a user stage. Energy, where the energy is embodied in the material. So component made of only one material and the components and end products recovered for the waste to energy plant in the form of electricity and heat. So that embodied energy that can be captured. Technical recoverability of components and products. So if you have components which is made of more than one material and products, it is assessed based on the components and products weight share that can be extracted for reuse, recycling, energy recovery and disposal using the eco design principle. So, that is your technical recoverability, how much you can technically recover. And then there are technological advancement, because based on advances in technology, some of the things which could not be recovered, say like a decade earlier, can be recovered now, because with the advances in technology that improve the efficiency of technology used in processing. So, those things are also there. So, based on increase in technology, we can make use of we can try to recover more now, because certain technologies are available to make it possible, which was not there earlier. So, these are important stuff to use. So, that is in terms of the resource recovery. So, those are the different type of concept which is we employ when we go for resource recovery. And whenever we talk about resource recovery, essentially what we are trying to do is we are trying to become circular. Now, what do you mean by circular? Is our economy right now is called a linear economy. Most of it is a linear economy. Now, what is linear economy? Linear economy is focused on make, use and dispose. So, you start, you produce things, you use things and then you discard things. So, you are not really bothered about after end of life trying to recover, reuse, recycle, bring it back to the economy, bring it back to the value chain, and but that concept is not that much kind of is in use. So, then that is why this whole concept of circular economy came into existence, where we have now realized that materials are not the, we do not have an infinite amount of material supply. At some point of time, we need to start looking at our waste material to generate the secondary material. Part of it is already happening. Either we are using it as an energy source, we are using it as a material source, but in general, those kind of like a resource recovery has not really picked up in a country like India. We still are struggling with certain aspect. We are disposing a lot of stuff in the landfill, in the dump site. So, this whole concept of circular economy, which also has you can say that inbuilt concept of zero waste. Zero waste does not mean like a really zero. It means that you are trying to minimize the waste production as much as possible, and you are recycling resource recovery as much as possible. You are doing waste to energy in the form of anaerobic digestion. You are trying to go for carbon nitrogen, for compost based on carbon nitrogen ratio. So, those are all the resource recovery part, where you are trying to put things back into the economy, either directly or indirectly. You are not letting it go. You are not making it like a linear economy. You go more as a circular economy concept. So, now what is that circular economy, which we try to explain right now? So, let us look at the definition, which is the standard definition that we see. In terms of circular economy, is it an alternative to traditional linear economy, which is make, use and dispose. So, that is what the linear economy is. You make things, you use it and you dispose it. Here in circular economy, we keep resources in use for as long as possible, extract the maximum value from them while in use, then recover and regenerate products and materials at the end of each service life. So, that is kind of you are trying to recover the material, regenerate the product and material at the end of each service life, which is not really easy. It is easy to say than being done. Now, the circular economy is restorative and regenerative by design. So, you design it in such a way, so it is a restorative and regenerative. This means that material constantly flow around a closed loop. Material is actually flowing in a closed loop, not going out of the loop, rather than being used once and then discarded. As a result, the value of material is not lost when being thrown away. So, that is there. In the case of plastic, that means that simultaneously keeping the value of plastics in the economy without leakage into the natural environment. So, we have to have this plastic value in the economy, and but we should not there should not be leakage into the natural environment, because that will lead to kind of littering and all. So, we do not want to do that, but we want to make sure that there is a we should be in terms of better plastic waste management, what are the steps we need to do in terms of moving towards a circular economy concept. So that's the concept of circular economy. So here also you can see in terms of the design here of the circular economy, you start with designing and manufacturing, retailer, consumer and household, reuse, repair, recycle, recycling center, and then things kind of goes back in terms of the whole circular economy concept. So again, if you look at the circular economy concept and the life cycle analysis concept that I explained in the last video, there is a lot of similarities. Both are kind of looking at the similar stuff in terms of the whole cradle to cradle or cradle to grave concept. So in terms of circular economy, it should be cradle to cradle. So that's what we need to kind of focus on when we talk about the circular economy, where essentially you are moving from linear economy to a circular economy, which is helpful in terms of managing the plastic waste. Now, as you can see, there is in terms of plastic waste, we have so you have these two bottles which kind of gets recycled, and out of recycling it generates some of that material which is used for electric bulb, and then we also have things in terms of the certain material which can be easily recycled. So those things are also there, things can be recycled over here. So these are just an illustration of different things that you can do. Similarly here in terms of circular economy means recycling, it means the recycling, it means design, getting of the raw material, where you design things, you produce, manufacture as we talked about, you distribute, you consumption, use, reuse and repair. Then you look at the proposed collection system as well, since this was like we are looking at in terms of plastic waste management. So in what can be done, and then again the recycling part. So and then some residual waste going into the landfill or waste to energy plant. So as you can see from the circular economy point of view, you have the raw material coming in, designing, production, distribution, consumption, collection, and then recycling and back into there. In traditional economy, we kind of waste here, and then we just kind of dump it in a dump site. So that's really doesn't work, because in circular economy we want to put things back into the economy. That's the whole concept of doing this circular economy stuff. So let's what we are trying to explain so far in this short video, the same thing has been explained in a slightly different way. So I thought you can watch this video on what the basic concept of circular economy, and then we'll continue this discussion. So this video has an audio component, so I'll keep quiet for the next I think around 2 minutes or so, which this video is, and then you just watch this video, listen to the audio with the video, and then we'll continue our discussion on circular economy. Whatever we have said so far in terms of circular economy will be repeated in this video with some more examples. So that should be helpful to you. So let's get started with that.
Again, instead you lease light, like you lease a car or an apartment. It's just one idea that's part of the circular economy. Before we can understand the circular economy, well, it helps to define the linear economy. Most organizations today operate in the linear economy, which is based on a take, make, and dispose model. So, for example, a light bulb company takes resources, like glass or metal, to manufacture its products. The company makes the bulb and sells it to a customer like me who uses it. Once the light bulb burns out, I dispose of it. It's likely neither the company nor I will ever see that light bulb again. For a light bulb company to make money in the linear economy, it tries to buy materials for the lowest cost possible and to sell as many bulbs as possible. This model operates as if there are infinite resources, like glass or metal, in the world. But you and I know that's not the case. That's why the circular economy treats materials like they're finite. A company in the circular economy doesn't just recycle products, but maintains ownership of them all along. So the model looks more like this: make, use, and return. Let's go back to the light bulb example. Instead of buying bulbs, this office in London leases its light from Philips Lighting. It signed a 15-year lease for the service and pays a fee each quarter. Philips still owns the actual light bulbs and provides maintenance and replacements when needed, no extra cost. This model gives Philips the incentive to produce energy-efficient light bulbs, and it saves the office money with fixed lighting costs. It's a radically different business model that makes companies more like service providers than sellers of a physical product. And it turns out lots of companies are looking for ways to get involved. Take H&M, one of the world's largest clothing retailers. It's working on a strategy to become 100% circular. The company collects old garments in its stores and recycles them. Since 2013, H&M says it has gathered more than 55,000 tons of fabric to reuse for new garments. Some governments are getting on board with the circular economy too. The European Union adopted an action plan in 2015 aiming to make supply chains, you guessed it, more circular. This includes everything from production to consumption, repair and manufacturing, and waste management. The point isn't just to become more green and create environmental benefits, there could be economic benefits too. One report estimated a shift toward the circular economy in the EU could increase GDP by an additional 12 percentage points by 2050. But moving from the linear economy to the circular economy also brings costs. Companies would need to redesign their supply chains and products in order for them to be used again and again. Manufacturers might be burdened when it comes to the actual logistics of disposing and recycling. A recent report found only 22% of UK companies are trying to generate value from products that are returned for reuse, recycling, or refurbishing. It's estimated the cost of transitioning to a fully efficient reuse and recycling system across Europe could be as much as 108 billion euros, roughly $130 billion. Cost is one thing. Changing people's mindsets is another. And that's what it'll take for the circular economy to go from an idea to reality for everyone.
Okay, so as you saw, it kind of trying to explain the basic concept related to the circular economy by taking the example of that light bulb, where right now we are buying the bulb, we are using the bulb, and we are just throwing them away. The concept is rather than owning the bulb, can we just as you saw in that particular office space where Philips company, if I remember correctly, the Philips company is owning all the bulbs, and whenever anything goes bad, it's the responsibility of the Philips company to come and fix it. And so that is so we don't own, we are just leasing stuff, and that's what so it will be kind of leasing of material. For example, in your house you have a refrigerator from Samsung or LG. So LG or Samsung is owning the refrigerator, they have leased it to us, and if they are maintaining it. So that will become rather than buying the product, you are taking product on lease, you are taking product on rent, you can say, and you are using it, and then when it's done, it goes back to the same company. So the company owns it. So we are just paying the money for the lease amount for that. So that way the company has that extended producer responsibility, and the whole business model will change. So it will be more from a kind of service based model where we are getting the service from the company rather than owning the product from the company. Rather than buying the product, we are buying the service. So we are buying the service of the refrigerator, we are buying the service of the washing machine, we are buying the service of TV. So the whole, so think about that, it's the whole the way the economy will work needs to change. So there is always a transition phase. And as you saw, just for the they were talking about $108 billion, 108 billion euros of newer economy. And with this concept of circular, there will be more growth. Sometimes we think like, if we go for circular economy, we will actually be producing less. That means less number of jobs. We are already struggling with the jobs in a country like India. So we need to produce more jobs, and with circular economy we will actually cut the jobs. That's the like when you look at it in the first place, that's kind of impression we get. But when you go into the deeper, like there will be newer types of jobs. it will be newer types of jobs. It will not be traditional jobs that we know of, but again we have to make products. We have to, rather than, one thing is that rather than dumping that product at the end of the life, we will be recovering the material. So it will be like trying to get the material out of that, putting it back into the economy. So still the jobs will be there, and in fact the projection is, as you saw in that video, that GDP increase will be even higher if the country starts adopting this circular economy approaches. Only thing is that in between there is always a transition phase where things will be a little bit maybe tough, but at the end of the day it will be much better. So that's what we need to strive for. That's the whole concept of circular economy. The United Nations Environmental Program, the World Bank, and everybody is looking at this in a very critical way, and this is a upcoming area. So maybe in 10 years, 15 years from now this whole economy will be different, and so you should be ready for this newer economy. And that's why one of the kind of motivation for putting this concept in this particular course is to introduce to this newer area, so that you at least be aware of what this whole concept of circular economy is all about, and especially how it relates to plastic, because plastic again plays a major role in terms of circular economy. So we'll look at one more explanation of circular economy concept, again in a slightly different context, and we will continue this discussion further. So again in this one I will be keeping quiet, let you hear this, and then we'll discuss it after the video is over.
For collection, let's see what happens when you have finished using a PET bottle. Depending on where you live, you can either put your PET bottle in your recycling bin or drop it at your nearest recycling centre. A collection truck picks up your recyclables and takes them to a materials recovery facility where all the PET plastic gets separated and baled. At flight, the PET bottles and containers are loaded onto the conveyor in the new wash plant. In just over 30 minutes, the bottle is washed, granulated and made into recycled PET flakes. The new plant can process thousands of bottles every day. Once the rPET flakes have been checked for quality, they are ready to continue through the flight manufacturing plant. The rPET flakes, which have come from the PET drinks bottles and other containers recycled around New Zealand, now replace the majority of virgin or new PET in Flight's state-of-the-art high-tech PET extrusion line. In this process, every roll of rPET film is made in 3 layers. The middle layer of the sheet contains the rPET, but the outer layer on each side is actually a thin layer of brand new virgin PET. Having new PET on both sides of the sheet adds an extra level of food safety, ensuring the food contact surfaces of the final product will be no different than a product made entirely from new PET. The newly made rolls of rPET film then continue into Flight's latest technology, thermoforming lines, to complete their conversion into new rPET containers. The containers are shipped to some of New Zealand's most iconic brands, being filled with fruit, biscuit, salads, meat or poultry. Every PET bottle or container recycled at Flight is given a new life, saving the import of materials and reducing waste to landfill. Flight containers are 100% recyclable, so when you put them out for recycling, the circle will continue.
So what you saw here is how the plastic is being used in a context of circular economy. So it's starting from those plastic waste being sorted into different material. You saw similar videos earlier as well. We talked about this plastic sorting process earlier. So plastic being sorted into different types, and then the newer plastic product that is being made. So this waste product from plastic, it was brought back into the economy, and then we made the newer containers which you saw at the end. Those container could fit all those fruits and vegetables and other things, that packaging material. So they were again number one plastic, and this particular company which you saw the video, the flight recycling. So, that was an example. The previous example was on circular economy in general, with an example of that bulb and those textile material, and this one as this course relates to the plastic, this second video was essentially trying to give an example of how plastic waste can be used in the context of the circular economy concept. So, that is what we looked into, and I hope the video was kind of self-explanatory. I do not have to talk more detail, but again it was essentially looking at the plastic waste, recovery of the resource from plastic waste, and bringing it back into the economy and making new products out of that. So, that is what circular economy is all about. So, it is a circle, try to bring things back into the system. So, with the concept of trying to have goal of having zero waste. So, that is the whole concept of the circular economy. So, being said that, if you the circular economy concept is started with this diagram, which you will see, which is from Ellen MacArthur Foundation website. Those of you who have more interest in the concept of circular economy, I strongly encourage you to go to this particular website, which is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. It has beautiful resources out there, several reports on circular economy, different aspects of circular economy, and this is a classical diagram which is used. You will find in any report related to circular economy, this particular diagram will be there, which is one of the first diagram generated in Ellen MacArthur Foundation's documents, which is used pretty much in many places. So, again here what does it mean? So, we will try to explain this in next few minutes. So, this is what is known as the outline of circular economy. So, this is what the circular economy is all about. You saw that already in those videos, so you have the idea. So, now what is that? The first principle is you try to preserve and enhance natural capital by controlling finite stocks and balancing renewable resource flow, resolve levers or regenerate, virtualize, exchange. Now, what does that all these big word actually, what is the meaning of these big words? So, what we are trying to do in a simple way, we are trying to preserve and enhance the resource recovery. So, whatever is the material resource that we are trying to use, the goal is, the first principle is not let go it into the dump site or a landfill. Let us try to bring it back into the economy. So, that is the whole concept. So, you are trying to preserve them and enhance the natural capital by controlling finite stocks. The stocks are always finite, and balancing the renewable resources flows, and you try to regenerate, virtualize, and exchange. So, that is your the first principle. The second principle is you try to optimize the resource yield. You try to look at your resource yield by circulating products, circulating components, materials in used at the highest utility at all times. You try to bring it back to the economy, and both technological as well as the biological cycle. And here again regenerate, share, optimize, loop, and all that. And third principle is the system effectiveness by revealing and designing all our designing out negative externalities. Again we try to use different types of lever. So, in terms of the explanation, as you can see, we have finite materials, we have some renewables. The concept is we try to regenerate, we try to substitute the material, we try to virtualize, we try to restore. So, you start with manufacture the part, then you manufacture product, then you provide service, then user uses it. From the user we try to collect it after its usage. So, either you can share it, so you can rather than you can have a kind of a lease kind of setting where you share, or you maintain, you try to reuse, redistribute, refurbish, remanufacture, recycle. So, that is the whole concept of the stock management, where we are trying to manage our stocks in a way so that less and less waste is produced. On a renewable flow management, we have, say, from the biological point of view, you have some collection, you can extract of biochemical feedstock, you can go for biogas production. You can have some kind of cascades within it in terms of recovering some resources. You can have biochemical feedstock recovery, which kind of goes back again to the system. We can have farming collection and all that, which again kind of goes back to the system. And in both these for the BIOS side or in terms of stock management side, we try to minimize systematic leakage and negative externalities. So, that is what its kind of whole concept. The whole concept is try to use it within the system as much as possible, rather than letting things go in rather than letting things go in terms of in a disposal system. So, that was again circular economy kind of in general. In specific to plastic, which you kind of saw that video, the second video as well, but in terms of circular economy solutions in the plastic sector, we are looking at we have production of so you have consumer production of only essential plastic using renewable resources. So, that is what you try to do. Then consumer based on sustainable business model. So, you try to recycle through remanufacturing, chemical recycling, organic recycling, try to have some reuse program, and energy recovery, and whatever leakage, try to minimize that leakage part. Then based on recycling and other stuff that we do, we kind of if needed, we redesign plastic production and products. Then try to use renewable alternative source. And of course, they are starting with the fossil fuel base, which we try to reduce, and this renewable alternative we try to increase. So, that is all in terms of trying to have this concept of the plastic being like reused within the same system, recycled and reused more and more within the system. And when it cannot be recycled, ultimately the thing will be to put it in a waste to energy plant. That will be also kind of a resource recovery. So, again another example of plastics in circular economy. So, we will look at this video and then kind of we will look at we will explain this slide and then we will stop this particular video. So, here we have two types. So, we have essentially the plastic as we know of is fossil raw material. It is a fossil fuel based raw material. So, that is where it is in terms of raw material coming in. Then there is some bio based material as well. We have production of plastic, different types, as you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from PET, HDPE, LDPE, PP, PS and others, which is present there. And then production phase, where you have some processing, use phase, then we have some collection. Then we try to have plastic usage in different types of sector. Where we also like agricultural sector, electrical sector, automotive sector, and construction sector and other sectors where the plastic is used. And then after plastic use, when it is disposed, we have to collect it. So, there will be plastic collection, there is a issue of plastic litter, and we are also trying to have some kind of a plastic heroes, which nearly 50% of the plastic packaging is like it goes, this is nearly like a lot of plastic goes into the system, into kind of non recyclable system. So, we try to collect that. So, in terms of 66% of the plastic are not yet reused, only 34% gets recycled. So, based on that, the goal is to kind of increase this number. So, that is this whole in term, if you look at the how plastic is in the circular economy into the production, use, collection and processing. Right now, we have only around 34%. Our goal, and 66% is not being into the circular economy sector, which is that is where we need to bring them in. We need to kind of include those 66% to have a better resource recovery, to have better recycling system in place. So, let us stop this video right now on this particular note. We will continue our discussion on circular economy and plastics in the next videos as well. Again, I hope you are enjoying this course. Any question, put it on the discussion forum, we will be happy to answer, and any feedback as well, which we will appreciate that. There is a weekly feedback which you get link every week. So, I hope you are putting it in there. Again, since this is a newer course, there is no textbook. So, we are putting up the PDF of this lecture material as well as several reading material. For every week there was reading material. I hope you have gone through that, because that is essential. You might have seen that few of the quiz questions could have been coming from the reading material as well, which try to minimize that, but sometimes you may have some questions even in exams which is showing up from the reading material. So, it is better you look at that reading material. You do not have to read each and every line, but it is always at least the big picture information from those reading material will be helpful, and most of these slides actually came from those reading material, as you will see many of these pictures are showing up there as well. So, with that note, let us stop here and we will continue our discussion in the next video. Thank you.